What's happening, guys? So let's talk about the upcoming rematch between Alexander Povetkin and Dillian Whyte. Now, of course, the first fight ended in the fifth round with Alexander Povetkin knocking Dillian Whyte out cold with a left uppercut. He came from behind, of course, to do so, and it was a really thrilling fight. And if you guys saw my prediction going into that fight, I was really surprised by the outcome. I thought that Dillian Whyte was going to win that fight, and I just felt going into that fight that Povetkin at 40 years old, coming off a fairly lackluster performance against Michael Hunter. I thought he beat Michael Hunter, don't get me wrong, but the performance was just a little bit one-paced, a little bit flat, and he definitely did show signs of aging in that fight. And I just felt that going in against Dillian Whyte in the UK, he just didn't really have the momentum, didn't really have the motivation anymore, and I thought he was going to get beaten. I was wrong, of course. Povetkin showed up and actually really exceeded expectations. You know, he showed a tremendous amount of heart, tremendous amount of courage, and got off the canvas twice to win the fight by knockout. So yeah, really impressive performance from him at 40 years old. And yeah, but it's several months down the line now, and they're going to be having a rematch. Of course, they were meant to fight at the end of last year, but Povetkin apparently ended up with an illness and wasn't able to prepare for the fight, couldn't get over to the UK and whatnot. So yeah, it's what it is. The fight got delayed, and it's happening later this month, I believe. So let's talk about it. This is a really hard fight to call, in my opinion. And I haven't really been paying that close attention to boxing lately over the past couple of months. I just haven't really been thinking about boxing much. But somebody actually did ask me what my thoughts are on this fight, and I've been thinking about it over the past day or so, and I just don't really know. I'm really struggling with this fight because obviously, look, my prediction for the first fight, I was very confident that Dillian Whyte would win, and I was very wrong, of course. And the way that fight was going, see, because my initial thoughts when they signed the rematch was I favour Povetkin strong to win the rematch just based on the fact that if he was able to do it once, he should be able to do it again, and the fact that we don't know how Dillian Whyte is going to react after having been knocked out like that. And just a few months later having to fight Povetkin again. So I did initially think that I would favour Povetkin. However, the more I think about again, it's difficult because in the first fight, Povetkin, despite winning the fight and despite winning the fight by a clinical knockout, he still showed a tremendous amount of decline. First of all, his timing was completely off. In that fourth round, Povetkin was walking onto sneaky counter shots from Dillian Whyte, notably with the left hand. Like the first knockdown of that fight was he got caught with a counter left hook, which is one of Dillian Whyte's best shots. And the second knockdown in that round was he got caught pursuing Dillian Whyte, and he walked right onto a left uppercut, which of course coincidentally turned out to be the shot that he took Dillian Whyte out with. So that was quite interesting. But my point is that Povetkin's punch resistance and Povetkin's timing definitely looked off. Also, his hand speed wasn't what it used to be. He's still faster than Dillian Whyte, don't get me wrong. Povetkin is still, even at 40 years old, he's a better athlete than Dillian Whyte is. But like I say, his hand speed has declined. It isn't what it was several years ago. Like if you look at Povetkin, for example, even just a couple years back when he fought David Price and Anthony Joshua, if you look at his hand speed in those fights, he's actually a lot quicker in those fights than he is now. And it's quite drastic, in fact, how much he's declined since then. And that's to be expected with age. When you reach your 40s, you're definitely not going to be as fast or as athletic as you are in your early 30s and late 20s and whatnot. But I digress. And anyway, my thoughts going into this fight is it really depends on one thing. It really depends on how motivated is Povetkin? How much is he willing to give? See, because the first fight, he had to really endure some hard times in order to win that fight. Like I said, he was knocked down twice, and he showed some significant decline in punch resistance and speed and timing and athleticism. And he had a really hard night. He had to really grit his teeth and get in there and find that knockout punch. does Povetkin have the motivation to do that all over again? Going in to fight Dillian Whyte a second time. I mean, Dillian Whyte, we understand where he is mentally because, I mean, he's basically fighting for his career. That's essentially what he's doing. If he loses this fight, he can kiss goodbye to probably ever getting a title shot, or at least in the next couple of years or so, because he was mandatory for a while and never managed to get the shot. And then of course the knockout with Povetkin put a stop to that, but put a stop to his aspirations to get a title shot. But lucky for him, he had the rematch clause. And I mean, if he beats Povetkin, he's back to square one. He's back as the #1 contender, back as the mandatory, and he won't be long before he gets a title shot. But if he loses to Povetkin again, he can pretty much kiss goodbye to ever getting a title shot in the near future, and his career will basically be over. Because I mean, Dillian Whyte doesn't strike me as a guy who wants to be in boxing for very long. Seems like to me he wants to become champion and have some paydays, and then that's it. So if he loses this fight, he's pretty much done. So I think that Dillian Whyte is going to be fighting for his career this time. I think he's going to be extremely motivated. I think he's going to be very cautious, very tactful. I think he's going to be working behind the jab. In the first fight, Whyte had a lot of success when he used his jab, because Povetkin, who's usually good at slipping the jab and countering over the top with a right hand or countering low with a left hook, he wasn't really able to avoid it that much in the first fight, because again his timing just isn't what it used to be. So I think Dillian Whyte will have watched that fight over and over again, and I think he'll be very cautious. I think he'll be very tactful, and I'm expecting this to be a long fight. I'm expecting it to be a very, very cautious and very, very slow paced fight. I'm not expecting this fight to be anywhere near as thrilling or as entertaining as the first fight was. I expect Dillian Whyte will be much more cautious this time, and he'll try and point score, and he'll probably look for a points win this time, or at very least a late stoppage. When Povetkin tires, which he undoubtedly will. What Povetkin needs to do is he needs to kind of do what he did in the first round of the first fight, but to a much higher level. And what I mean is, in the first fight, Povetkin was sort of throwing these hooks to the body, and then he would linger on the outside and hang around on the back foot, and he would jump in with these body shots. And he was, of course, trying to slow down Dillian Whyte and make him more stationary and open up the target for the knockout, which, of course, happened. He was able to set that knockout up with a feint. He feinted the jab, slipped to the left, and made Dillian Whyte think he was going to go to the body, which he'd been doing most of the fight, but then came up the middle with a left uppercut. It was a really clinical and very accurate knockout punch. And he's going to have to do that here. He's going to have to work the body consistently. He's going to have to slow Dillian Whyte down. He's going to have to make Dillian Whyte stationary, and he's going to have to find a knockout blow. Povetkin is not going to win on points. He's not going to get a decision in the UK against Dillian Whyte. You can forget about that happening. So I think he knows that. I think he knows he needs a knockout, and I just think that Dillian Whyte, to me, again, I know that I picked Dillian Whyte the first time and I was completely wrong, but my gut tells me that Dillian Whyte wins the rematch. That's what it tells me. It tells me that Povetkin, I'm not saying he got lucky the first time. He didn't. It was a clinical, well set up, well prepared knockout. But going into the rematch, I just think that, like I said, Dillian Whyte will be very cautious. Dillian Whyte's going to be, he's going to be making it a jab fest. He's going to be very, very quick to hold and quick to spoil. And I think that Dillian Whyte's going to be more prepared this time. I think he's going to be in better shape. And I think he's going to be more motivated not to get caught and to just take the fight into the later rounds and either walk Povetkin down or win the fight by decision at home. That's how I see it. So I'm going to go with Dillian Whyte by a decision or a late stoppage based on just Povetkin's fatigue. That's how I see this one. So let me know what you guys think anyway. I know that this wasn't really that much of an insightful prediction. I'm pretty much saying what everybody is saying about this fight, or at least I assume so, because I mean most people seem to feel that Dillian Whyte will win this fight, and I happen to agree. But again, what do I know? I thought he was going to win the first fight, and he didn't. So maybe Povetkin will surprise me again. We'll see. But I don't see it. I think Dillian Whyte wins. I think he wins either by decision or a late stoppage. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Yeah, God bless.